Sam Sulek skips Leg Day. Ich bin gespannt, was unsere Mickey Maus Stimme heute zu berichten hat. Let's go, wird bestimmt interessant. Wie kommt denn der jetzt da drauf?
And so remember, doing the exercise is this. It is in fact ego lifting.
Herzlichen Glückwunsch zu 2 Millionen Abonnenten auf YouTube. Du wirst das Video eh nicht sehen, aber von mir hast du die Glückwünsche.
Coach Greg, in today's video, we're going to go over Sam Sulek's leg day. And in this, we're also going to be discussing the importance of doing cardio. And so I've already watched the video, and throughout the video, Sam brings up many great points of which I want to address. And so let's get right into it.
Ego Kong 89, danke dir fürs Prime-Abo. So, wir gucken jetzt, wir reagieren auf eine Reaction. Inception.
Responsible for my time management. Rather than just try to do a little bit of both, I'd rather just totally thrash quads. Better to do some than none.
And so due to poor time management skills, Sam doesn't have enough time to get through his entire workout, and so he's decided to hit quads and to skip his hamstring. He states it's better to go and at least do something than to do nothing and skip the entire training session, and I have to 100% agree. But what I don't agree with is him skipping hamstrings in favor of him training quads. If anything, it should be the exact opposite. Almost everyone, and I do mean almost everyone, has better quads than they do hamstrings. For the most part, people neglect their hamstrings way more often than their quads. And why is that? Well, because you can see your quads in the mirror. How often do you look at your hamstring from the rear? Not many people are able to see their hamstrings. They don't actually see them work when they're in the gym. And in comparison, people can see their quads. And so it's much easier to train and focus on your quads and your hamstrings. And so if you have to skip one, I would suggest to skip out on your quads in favor of doing your hamstrings. Also, way more often that people pull a hamstring than pull a quad. Hamstrings are way more important, way more often neglected. And
Boah, wenn ich das so höre, ne, dann bin ich gerade echt erleichtert. Ne, das ist nicht doppelte Geschwindigkeit leider. Weil ich tatsächlich viel fokussierter mein Hamstring trainiere seit einem Jahr, weil ich die Quads nicht richtig treffen kann wegen meinem kaputten Knie. Ich habe ja Arthrose im Knie und das erleichtert mich hier gerade, wenn er sagt, Hamstrings-Training ist wichtiger als Quads.
And so that is what I would focus on. Unless you're perhaps an anomaly, for example, Coach Greg, my hamstrings are better developed than my quads. And so if I'm going to the gym because
Das ist übrigens er, ne?
my hamstrings are better than my quads, I would in fact
Boah, Junge, was hat er für einen brutalen, durchgestreiften Hamstring?
skip out on the hamstrings and train the quads instead. But there is in fact a much better way. A best of both worlds, a compromise, so to speak. You can very easily train both your hamstrings and your quads at the very same time. And so if you're short on time, why not just select exercises that you do for the legs that focus on both? For example, squats, hack squats, the leg press. These exercises, especially if going to 90 degrees or going through a full range of motion, most certainly are going to train both. Sam, on the other hand, he's going to the gym, he's going to focus on leg extensions, and in particular, he's going to do one leg at a time because he's so strong that there isn't enough weight on the machine to train both legs at the same time with enough intensity. But again, there are things you can do. You could, for example, use bands. For example, when
Oder einfach Intensitätstechniken mit bisschen Halten oder Slow Reps.
training legs with Eric Janicki, we added bands because he could very easily do the entire stack. Increase the range of motion, slow
Johnnys TK-Wichse, danke dir fürs Prime-Abo.
down the speed of the
Das muss ich dir jetzt schicken.
rep and increase time on tension of the muscle. And so in these instances, when you don't have the time to fully do your entire workout, why not just focus on the most intense exercises that do both the quads
Ja, Mann, der hört sich echt an wie Chris Tucker.
and the hamstrings? And if there isn't enough weight on the machine, for example, when you're traveling down south on vacation, training in a hotel room, why not simply add bands? You can make the exercise more difficult than last time.
Doing some Smith machine squats once my quads are already pumped. Pressing when your quads are already pumped is almost a completely different sort of feeling.
And I have to agree with Sam. I much prefer training my hardest exercise first. For example, I'd rather start out with doing squats than starting out with leg extensions and then doing squats because it's much more difficult to lift heavy weights when your legs are tired than
Ich finde es tatsächlich auch geiler, wenn du schon so einen Pump hast, im Hamstring und ein bisschen im Quad vorne, dann zum Beispiel Beinpresse machen, das fühlt sich ganz, ganz anders an. Viel geiler.
when they're actually 100% fresh. But I do see a case of doing it the opposite. If you warm up the quads by doing leg extensions first, you decrease your strength. And so when it comes down to doing squats, whether it's Smith machine, regular squats, and so on, you're going to use a lot lighter weight and avoid having to ego lift. But remember, there are other ways to avoid ego lifting than having to pre-exhaust your muscles first. You can simply slow down the range of motion, go through a full range of motion, pause the weight at the bottom, and concentrate on the muscle that you're lifting while performing the exercise. Also, increase the amount of reps you're doing. Far often, people lift with way heavier weight than they need to, and they don't focus on the time under tension. That's the TUT on the muscle. And so, why not time your sets? Have you ever timed a set? Literally, go do a set of squats, press the start button, and see how long it takes. My general
Ich fange immer mit Adduktoren an, 4 Arbeitssätze, immer ans Versagen. Dann mache ich 2 Beugerübungen und dann gehe ich an die Beinpresse. Und dann jetzt Beinstrecker geht jetzt seit letzter Woche übrigens auch wieder. Aber keine Split Squats, keine Squats, keine Front Squats, alles was mit Beugen zu tun hat, Hackenschmidt, kann ich alles nicht machen leider. Ja, Beinpresse ist die einzig schwere Übung. Ich versuche halt den Fokus wirklich komplett auf Adduktoren und Beinbeuger zu setzen, weil mir nichts anderes übrig bleibt.
Advice is for most people, most exercise, somewhere between 40 seconds up to a minute, that is a great time and tension. Some people, like Eric Janicki, they're going on for 2 and even 3 minutes. To me, that is a little bit too long.
Der Typ sieht brutal aus, ne, da auf dem Beinbeuger.
For most people, that's going to be a long time. You can try to progressive overload, try perhaps 1 or 2 sets with that length of time under tension. But for the most part, you don't need to do sets of 2 to 3 minutes to build muscle. But if you're trying to avoid eagle lifting, make it safer, do sets approaching a minute rather than sets of 15 or 30 seconds.
Let's say you're going into chest and you want to do flat bench. If there's a bunch of people on flat, you've got no access. What are you going to do? Are you going to have a constrained mindset and just sit there patiently and wait for the bench to open up?
Sam also brings up a great point. If the machine you want is busy, why sit there and wait for them? Why not just do an alternative exercise that's similar to the one that you're doing? I often do coaching plans. People say, oh, the machine was busy. I had to wait 20 minutes to do my exercise. Why not just do an alternative exercise? It's okay.
Geil, Johnnys TK-Wichse. Vielen lieben Dank für den netten Text und viel Spaß mit dem Stream, Mann.
Okay to vary your exercises. It's all right. You don't have to do the exercises exactly as listed on the program. You can even switch up the order. Why not go and do the next exercise on the list and go and do that previous exercise immediately after? It's okay. You might not be able to lift as heavy a weight because you're pre-fatigued, but that's all right. The next workout, perhaps the gym won't be as busy. You can get going on doing the program instead.
No. Instead of starting off with double leg, the stack is like just too light. So I'll start off with single leg.
And rather than doing 1 leg at a time, he could literally just slow down the movement and pause the weight at the top. Hold it for
Genau das, was ich gerade gesagt habe.
3 seconds. The increased time under tension, under load, especially while the leg's completely extended at its weakest point, perhaps, that is going to be harder than last time. And so why not just use 2 legs, slowly lift the weight up, squeeze hard at peak contraction,
Junge, was ist das denn für ein Monstrum, Alter?
and then slowly lower the weight twice as
Wir haben uns doch von ihm irgendwann mal ein Trainingsvideo angeguckt. Mit wem hat er nochmal trainiert? Ich glaube mit Johnny Münster sogar, oder?
slow as you raised it. That is going to make the exercise probably
Nee, Greg war Classic Physik.
2, maybe even 3 times as difficult as simply swinging the weight up as fast as humanly possible. And so remember, doing the exercise as this, it is in fact ego lifting. It's easier, it's much easier doing it this way than it is to slowly control the weight. And so if the weights are not heavy enough, make the exercise harder. Try doing your exercise like that. Instead of thinking, I need to get 10 to 15 reps, think, I have to get less than 10 reps. I'm going to make this so hard that I give up at 9. And notice just how hard he's training. He's clearly going to failure and beyond. And so regardless of how he's doing the exercise, whether he's using perfect technique or not, when you train this hard, you're bound to make some gains, assuming you don't get injured. And so I'm not trying.
Ich hasse den Trainingsstil von Sam, ne? Sam, ich mag's überhaupt
to
nicht.
say he should stop
Jam Pass, danke dir fürs Prime-Abo, Mann.
training the way he does. I'm not saying he's not doing anything correctly. He's clearly training harder than last time. But if he wants to be more efficient in his workouts, he could in fact slow down that range of motion and really feel the exercise, feel the mind-muscle connection. And so notice after he does 1 leg at a time on the leg extension, he
Trainier mal einen Monat wie Sam und dann machst du richtige Gains. Ich glaube, nach einem Monat Training wie Sam habe ich Bandscheibenvorfall, beide Knie zerschmettert und Bizepssehne abgerissen und entzündet.
then does both legs at the same time, gets a little bit over 15 repetitions, but hardly any of those reps were to full extension. And so is he really that strong, or is it simply this strong because he's cheating out by using partial range of motion? I would much rather see him go through the full range of motion, really squeeze at the top, and then after he reaches, I would much
Digga, was geht denn mit seinem... Der hat auch, glaube ich, richtig Bluthochdruck. Guck mal sein Gesicht, seine Gesichtsfarbe und guck mal seinen Hals.
I'd rather see him go through the full range of motion.
Seht ihr das auch? Sieht aus, als ob der so Neurodermitis hätte im Gesicht. So richtig oder richtig Bluthochdruck. Wahnsinn, Digga. Sieht echt nicht gesund aus, ne? Naja, ein bisschen mehr Stoff noch rein, dann wird das schon, Sam. Und an dieser Stelle gibt es eine ganz kurze Werbeunterbrechung. Falls ihr mich supporten möchtet, Freunde, besucht auf jeden Fall esn.com, denn dort sichert ihr euch mit dem Rabattcode William immer den besten Deal. Unter anderem beispielsweise auf ein leckeres Designer Whey Protein. Und schaut auch unbedingt auf Oasis vorbei. Da findet ihr beispielsweise dieses wunderschöne Tanktop und auch andere geile Klamotten, die ihr auch im Alltag anwenden könnt. Ebenfalls Rabattcode William. Alle Links wie immer in der Videobeschreibung und weiter geht's mit dem Video.
Really squeeze at the top, and then after he reaches failure, he can then do his partial reps. I would say if he was doing the exercise correctly, probably would have got 8 good reps, then perhaps could have got 5, 6, 7 partials after that. And just look at the sweat coming off this guy wearing that orange shirt. He's sweating profusely just through the shirt. Me personally, I believe in staying cool during the exercise. If you know Coach Greg, you know I walk around with a fan. The cooler you can keep your body, the more power you're going to put out. If you're overheated, sweating harder than last time, you're not going to be able to train as hard, and therefore you're not going to get as many gains. And a lot of people, they judge their workouts based on how much sweat they're getting. You need to stop thinking like that. If you're exercising hard in a very warm room, for example, I did hot yoga this morning, I was sweating
Hot Yoga.
everywhere. But just because I was sweating profusely doesn't mean I was burning more calories or getting a better workout than during the bike race I did this afternoon. I most certainly burnt more calories during that hour-long bike race than during the hour and 15 minutes that I was doing yoga at our studios here in Halifax.
I just ran down from the last 2 sets. I only did 9 total, so I cut 2 out the normal.
And so he did 9 total sets of quads. And remember, he didn't have enough time to do his entire leg workout, but he did 9 sets of quads. What would make more sense to you? Would it make more sense to, for example, do 5 sets of quads and 5 sets of hamstrings, perhaps going from quads to hamstrings back and forth, allowing his body to rest between sets? While doing his hamstrings, it allows him to rest his quads, then switches over to doing quads, giving his hamstrings a break. And so he wouldn't need to rest very long. Perhaps 1 minute would have had plenty of time to train both hamstrings and quads. And if you're asking me, training this difficult, this hard, going beyond failure, he wouldn't need to do 9 sets. You don't need to train this hard every single workout in order to make gains in the gym. So I believe the best course of action would have been for him to train both his quads and his hamstrings, and to just alternate doing quads, hamstrings, back and forth, 5 sets of each.
Ich bleibe auch dabei, ich finde die Beine zum Oberkörper auch schwach, ne? Nee, der hat, glaube ich, noch nie einen Wettkampf gemacht.
So a little breath hold to get the veins popping out.
And so Sam brings up a good point. If you're flexing your quads, if you've got a fully developed pump, you're not going to see as much definition and detail as there's so
Ja, wenn die voll sind, siehst du halt nichts, keine Cuts, ne? Das ist normal.
much blood rushing to the muscle as it actually blurs out some of the striations, cuts, detail, and so on. And the same applies to the triceps. And so when we're pumping up for bodybuilding competitions, we're not doing a bunch of squats and we're not doing tricep press downs. We want the triceps and the quads not to be pumped up, but we want the back, the chest, the delts, biceps to have a massive pump. That allows you to look full as a house
Sieber.
on stage
Leck.
with all
No.
the detail necessary to win a bodybuilding competition.
I'd say just for general lifestyle purposes, I'm probably a bigger fan of fall-ish. I don't really like just being sweaty.
And so isn't it a bit ironic that he says he doesn't like to be sweaty? He prefers the fall weather of the summer. He doesn't want to be hot all the time. Yet he's training in a sweater and jogging pants, and that is going to make him sweat more and be much warmer than if he were wearing cooler clothes. And so I do believe Sam would have a better workout.
Digga, das halbe Video ist gleich ein Placement. Wahnsinn. Ab hier geht's los. Ab hier bis Ende ist einfach Placement.
If he were wearing perhaps a tank top or moisture wicking clothing. And so don't think that you need to cover up and get a big sweat in order to get a better workout. Also, if you sweat like crazy the way I do, nothing wrong.
Ich schwitze tatsächlich nur, wenn es auch warm ist im Gym. Sonst überhaupt nicht. Bei Cardio, ab 30 Minuten fange ich an zu schwitzen, vorher nicht. Das ist bei mir völlig krass.
With carrying a fan. The fan is going to cool you off, going to make you feel better. Perhaps you'll go that much longer in the gym. In particular, when you're doing cardio, it's much better to have a fan to cool yourself down than trying to sweat through an entire workout. If you have to change shirts after you do
Ja, okay, Brudi, aber du schwitzt ja im Gym auch nicht so krass. Du schwitzt ja, wenn du BJJ machst, ne? Extrem krass, weil das auch einfach eine komplett andere Belastung ist. Wenn wir zusammen trainieren im Gym, dann schwitzt du nicht. Also wenig.
your warm-up cardio the way I do, much better to bring a fan with you, keeps you cooler, allows you to work out harder. And so please take my word for it, sweating harder than last time, it's not a necessity when you're training in the gym. And in fact, keeping cooler is going to allow you to have a better workout than last time.
I'm gonna get home and get the cluster dextrin shake going. I didn't fucking make it.
And so he's saying he has to rush home to get in the cluster destrin, the carbohydrates and so on. I do believe that's because he's taking insulin. I don't have
100%. Freilos, danke fürs Prime-Abo.
proof. I don't know for sure, but there is no such thing as an anabolic window. No matter what Sam is stating, there is no actual research stating that you need to consume protein and or carbs immediately after a workout. Now, if you were training fasted, you haven't eaten in 4 or 5 hours, then absolutely important to get in your nutrients after you go out to the gym. But if you're having a pre-workout meal or if you've eaten a couple hours before training, there's absolutely no benefit or necessity to slam back a whey protein shake immediately after the gym.
I'm probably more so a believer than a disbeliever.
Sam is more of a believer than a disbeliever in this, but remember, he is perhaps taking insulin.
Man kann auch Stunde danach seinen Shake trinken. Ne? Ich mache es einfach, weil ich habe dann schon hinter mir. Ich mag es auch einfach, ist irgendwo so eine Belohnung bei mir, meine Carbs und meinen Shake nach dem Training direkt zu konsumieren. Und ich esse halt direkt eine Stunde nach dem Gym direkt eine feste Mahlzeit, ne? Eine vollwertige. Der Preuße 8502 abonniert. Danke schön, mein Lieber.
And he is not 100% natural. And so perhaps for him, he needs to ensure that he gets in these nutrients to prevent from going hypoglycemic. I'm sure he has a plan. He does, in fact, know what he's doing. But if you're a natural athlete, just go into the gym. Don't think that as soon as you finish your workout that you need to consume carbs and or protein. Now remember, this advice I'm giving to people who are going to the gym and lifting weights. If you train for an hour and a half, perhaps you're burning 3, 4, maybe 500 calories. That is in fact not a lot in the grand scheme. For example, when I'm riding my bike for an hour, I'm burning approximately 1,000 calories, probably double what Sam's burning during his workouts. And so it makes much more sense for someone like
Oh, wie geil ist das denn, Mann? Boah, darauf hätte ich ja Bock. Cardio direkt als Spiel. So Rennen, Fahrradrennen. Boah, ich würde jeden Tag 2 Stunden Cardio machen.
me doing cardio, burning an extreme number of calories to consume food following my workout. The reason for that is, as Sam describes,
Das wird richtig Bock machen, ne?
if you've burnt off
Wäre auch geil im Gym, wenn so die Fahrräder nebeneinander, wenn du die dann connecten könntest, und dann da, aber da wären voll die Spasten, Digga, die würden da rumtoben.
all your fuel, you need to replace it. If you have a car, you went for a 500-kilometer drive and the tank's on empty, you got to get some gas. But if you have a full tank of gas and drive to the local grocery store and back, you don't need to put more gas in the tank. You're good.
You know, there's a lot of shit you can do, which I think a lot of you are slacking on just because it only offers you marginal gains. Yeah, I don't really do cardio. That's a classic, you fucking asshole.
And so Sam brings up a great point. A lot of the things that people avoid doing, they avoid them because it's only going to give marginal gains, perhaps 1%. 1%, not really noticeable. But imagine skipping out on all of them. Or imagine adding 10 different things that offer marginal gains. 10 things that help you 1%, well, that's a 10% improvement. And so if you're looking for things that can give you marginal gains, consider harder than last time supplements. For example, pre-workout.
So, also was konnten wir aus dem Video entnehmen, Freunde? Bisschen Kritik, ne? An Sam Schwulek, aber auch tatsächlich etwas Props zu manchen Sachen, die der da gesagt hat. Aber ich bin der Meinung, der könnte, was das Training angeht, könnte er das Training komplett optimieren, ja. Weil das, was wir jetzt gesehen haben, also Beintraining geht noch, aber das Rückentraining, das waren ja wirklich halbe Wiederholungen. Das hat mir überhaupt nicht gefallen, was er da gemacht hat. Vielen lieben Dank fürs Zuschauen, Freunde. Und falls ihr mich supporten möchtet, schaut auf jeden Fall bei esn.com vorbei. Mit Rabattcode William sichert ihr euch wie immer den allerbesten Deal. Beispielsweise auf ein leckeres Isoclear. Aktuell trinke ich sehr gerne im Sommer den Raspberry-Geschmack. Gebt mir noch 2 Wochen.com, ist jetzt online, da könnt ihr euch aktuell 3 verschiedene geile Designs sichern. Alle Links wie immer in der Videobeschreibung. Und falls ihr auf der Straße oder im Gym den Dicken machen wollt, schaut unbedingt bei oace.com ab, denn dort habt ihr auch immer den besten Deal mit Rabattcode William. Da gibt es zum Beispiel diese wunderschönen Tanktops, womit ihr wirklich im Gym aussieht wie eine brutale Maschine. Vielen lieben Dank fürs Zuschauen. Schaut auf jeden Fall auch 3-mal die Woche bei Twitch vorbei um 20:30 Uhr, Montag, Mittwoch, Freitag sind wir online. Alle Links in der Videobeschreibung. Vielen lieben Dank und bis zum nächsten Mal.